is really, really common. I mean, well, the statistics are showing that teenagers, 50% or more have at least one of them, each week. So and that's their market. So I brought that up because that's another area of research that we are interested in, and we are involved. We are studying our medical students here at the University of Texas, and what we did is we did a study of their vascular function using a non-invasive ultrasound, looking at the arteries of their arms, and we showed after a single can of 24-ounce can of Monster that in the first 11 that we've analyzed, they had a significant reduction in their ability of their blood to flow in their bodies after and they didn't do anything. I mean, this was just
tweet that, Matthew. Make sure you tweet that. Go ahead.
This was just at rest. So we as you know,
I hate to cut you off. Do you know why? It was a vasoconstriction, or do you know?
Well, it appears that and this has been shown by other authors that the energy drinks, via the chemicals they have in them, have an abnormal effect on endothelial function, or they cause endothelial dysfunction acutely.
Wow.
And that means that the arteries are stiffer, they're not opening as well, the platelets and the blood is stickier, so it's more likely to clot and aggregate, and also spasm. And there's been cases, associated with energy drink consumption and sudden cardiac death. And the reason I mention that is that there is a belief, and it sort of fits into this discussion we've been having, that having an energy drink and then combining that with exercise is increasing that stressor part. So if you've got someone who has an underlying cardiovascular condition associated with sudden cardiac death, and they have the energy drink and they're exercising, that's like a double whammy of stress. Mm-hmm. And that may create the perfect storm for sudden cardiac death. And we've seen that in cases around the country where this is the case. So the other problem with energy drinks is, as you pointed out, Mark, they don't tell you a lot of what's in them. The transparency. Up in Canada, Health Canada has passed a law. They've changed them from their designation of supplements. Now they are classified under food and beverages. Mm. So Health Canada, because of that, they now have to have the exact amounts of the ingredients listed. The FDA here, unfortunately, we have not done that yet. Most of them are still categorized as supplements, and they have things, guarana. They'll list the caffeine, but they'll also say, an energy blend with guarana, cola beans, all of these other things, which also have caffeine in them. So they actually have more. They not only have the artificial caffeine that's been added, they have all of these other sources of caffeine. So put this together with kids that don't drink coffee, every day of the week. I mean, and it's like their body is like, wow, they're lit up. So I would, for those students and people who are listening out there, I would definitely recommend avoid energy drinks right now until we get more research on them, because kids are dying who are drinking energy drinks and exercising.
And you're doing a study, or you published that study?
No, we've published the first 11 reports, and we have 46 total. We are putting together the data on that now.
That's a huge fact. I mean, to know that there's a blood problem after an blood flow problem. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's important for people, and for people to know that energy drinks are not sports drinks, and they're not like water, and you're safe with water or your sports drinks, like Gatorade and those sort of things. They're okay, but anytime you start doing energy stuff, whether it be the energy drinks or those 5-hour shots, those energy shots, they have even more high levels of caffeine in them than the energy drinks. They have between 70 to 100 or more milligrams of caffeine per mil.
Per mil.
Yeah.
Wow.
The energy shots. So those are really, really something that is concerning. And again, we would like to see those products classified as a food and beverage, so that the companies have to tell us what's in them, and that we would also like warnings and them to be restricted sales to those who are under 18, pregnant women, and those with caffeine sensitivity, etc. So we would like those to be better regulated. I mean, I don't know. Have you guys had issues with the energy drinks at your places?
Yes.
At U of H, I'm sure, I can't speak for athletics, but the standard answer has got to be yes, I'm sure. And I don't mean yes problems, but I'm sure they're in high use because it's like you said, they're marketed. What better, I'm sure high school, but I'm sure 18 to 30-year-old males also is probably a pretty high, and not even that, but just the workplace. You see it on TV. Do you get that? There's a commercial. Do you get that 230 feeling? We'll take an energy shot.
Yes, exactly.
And so it's just it's marketed to them. I'm sure it's a big deal everywhere for the younger population. I don't drink them not because I'm against them. It's just I haven't needed them, but I'm sure at the high school as well. And because have some Monster. What do you do? Oh, well, we got 2 days now, and so we're going outside. Good, it'll give you some energy. You'll, not to mention dehydration. Your heart rate's up, and you're just stimulated so much. But
yeah, like I've always said, with a name like Monster, it's got to be good for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you students are not doing the energy beverages, are you? Good. Okay, Jeremy, your students.
What do you think, Matthew? Guys? You just drink a lot of coffee, huh? A lot of coffee. So, good. So they're actually a sports medicine or student athletic trainers, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, very, very good.
So we don't stress them out too much on the field, hopefully.
So you guys have to be up so you can help those that are taking the energy shots.
Yeah, that's true. Have you guys on your campuses? Have you had rare cases of sudden cardiac death that you've have occurred at your facilities?
U of H had one. It wasn't really. It was more of it was a trauma injury. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say too much because I don't know how much I can say. But I don't know of any true sudden cardiac death. But I've we're outside of athletics a little bit. But I can get you in contact with somebody that could tell you for sure.
I don't know of any that have occurred on our campus but I think there's been some in the district, in the school district. I know when I went to high school in Dobie, there was a kid that
I remember that one. I was at Lamar when that one happened.
He died. Actually, one of my friends, one of my student athletic trainer friends, was doing CPR. No, it was during football too.
Was it football?
There was a basketball player at either Beverly Hills or Dobie that did recently, like in the last 10 years.
I was thinking there was a basketball, but this would have been like in 2003 or 4.
Yeah, that happened there, but no, because I went to, it was probably about 97 when this happened, because I was in high school. I graduated in 99.
Okay.
So, but it came out that it was like drugs related, but I never got the full story. So there's been stuff in the district, but nothing recently that I know of.
Okay.
So about 2003 probably would have been the last thing within the district.
Now, and are you guys ready when House Bill 767 passes?
U of H would be, because they, we have I hate to say, we have the financial ability that we could do easily everybody. Now, at a high school, you're the ones that I would say, where's the funding come from? Who pays for it? That kind of thing. That might be a little more of a...
Yeah, so one of the things for us is our school district is partnered with Memorial Hermann, which you are also, I see you have Memorial Hermann ID there. And so it'll be interesting because, here you are with Memorial Hermann pushing us to have this, and then I hear from some of the athletic trainers that represent Memorial Hermann. They're like, I don't understand how we can't do this, because some of the issues we brought up, who's going to read these, what are we going to do with these false positives, how are we going to get these kids to pay for it? But then even if you mentioned $2,000 for a full EKG workup, I mean, yeah, that's a lot for some people, but I'm thinking my son, if he had a $20 test that said, hey, you probably have a problem, I'm willing to pay $2,000 for his life, and so well, I guess once we have some more information, and if I have that statistics where I can just say, hey, it's only 6 in 100 that have a false negative or a false positive. Right. Look, this is really something we need to look at. This is really something we need to do. This test was $20. Is your kid's life worth $2,000? And so if for one of those things, it really helps me here understanding the cost and the reality of the situation. Whereas before I was hearing there was like a 20% false positive. Right. Well, yikes, that's terrible. But when you're saying reality, it's not. So.
And I think what will happen too what happens right now is if a doctor suspects a child has a certain condition and has a good reason to suspect that, and then has to do some further testing, then oftentimes the insurance will actually have to pay for that extra testing. Now, they may not pay for the screening test, but if the screening test flags something and says, we think this child has X condition or Y condition, then the extra screening testing and the follow-up visits with the pediatric cardiologist, etc., they normally have to be paid. And if this is mandated, they will definitely have to be paid. So I think it's more just getting that organized. And I know Memorial Hermann, we do our screening through Memorial Hermann with the 4-step process, the history, physical, ECG, and echocardiogram. We do that, on a routine basis. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there will be any problems getting it in. It will be, as we discussed before, it'll be just having someone from Memorial Hermann, a technologist, come out, or probably a couple of technologists come out, set up ECG stations, and have the children get the ECG at the last part of it, and then those will go back to the Central Memorial Hermann. They'll be evaluated and they will give those most likely those 3 categories that we talked about. Pass, no restrictions, fail, restrict, and further workup needed, or indeterminate or borderline, needs an appointment with a cardiologist or something like that. So I know Memorial Hermann has the infrastructure to do that, because we've been doing that with our more advanced, with the 4-step process. This is just the 3-step process. So that I don't think that will be a difficulty in the future. And if this is passed, then it'll have to be done. So someone will have to do it.
So what's the national scene look like this? Because I know some of the people listening live are in like Tennessee. Is Texas the very first one to do something like this in the United States?
Well, Texas, if this passes, this bill, this will be the first time anywhere in the United States where a state law has been passed to mandate ECGs. Now, that it's a good question. The interesting thing is one of the speakers who testified the other week at the hearing was saying that they had at the American Heart Association annual meeting, they had a poll. They were having a discussion about ECG, doing the ECG screening, and they polled their audience, which was about 1,000 members, who were mainly cardiologists, and 60% of them were in favor of doing the ECG. So it looks like the cardiologists want it done, the families want it done, and I think there will be, there are already places, I mentioned before about the NCAA medical officer who is going to announce, at least in African American basketball players, that he's going to require that. So there are places right now that are already doing this. Parent Heart Watch, which is a national foundation, they have chapters in every state, and they offer, they basically how they work is they do via donations, both locally and nationally. They go out and they do free ECGs and they're doing that in many states. So that's just one example, but in every state there, as I mentioned, for example, up north in Klein and Katy, there's a group of cardiologists up there that they do free ECGs. For example, on this last Saturday, they did 2,000 ECGs on it was a full school screening that they did. So those and they I believe they offer them for $15 or something like that, an ECG. So there are groups out there that are already doing it, both here in Texas and around the country. I think my hope is that we'll get this passed in Texas. We'll start doing this. And I think this is one of these situations where the only way to see if it's going to work is to do it. Mm-hmm. People keep saying it can't be done, but I'm saying, well, let's do it. And I mean, we've already done it. Other groups have done it. Small groups are doing it already. Let's just do this thing. Let's get the data. I think it's really going to be important to have as part of this, to make sure we have a good database in Texas. And I think a national registry would be the way of the future, so that we at least know what we can get all of these ECGs in this. We can determine by analysis what are the quote unquote high risk features on these abnormal ECGs. Is benign early repolarization, is that something that we should reclassify now and call it a high risk finding on an ECG? Is a normal variant, with can we better kind of define what changes a normal athletic heart has on an ECG? And I think by doing, thousands, millions potentially of ECGs, I think we will be able to get our algorithms and our diagnostic skills much better, so that we'll reduce down I think over time those false positives and false negatives and will go down, and we will be able to better target and identify those who have the true condition. And let's, why not in Texas?